Nashville is alive with music, sure, but creativity also thrives in our art, marketing, technology, food, and in every corner of our community. On Creative Assembly's The Spark podcast, our mission is to amplify Nashville's diverse creative voices, foster growth through shared journeys, and inspire a city that thrives on collaboration. Each episode will take a deep dive into the lives and passions of Nashville's most innovative minds. We'll explore their creative processes, the challenges they face, and power of collaboration, along with so much more. Welcome to the Spark Podcast, brought to you by Snapshot, a digital agency on a mission to serve with heart, execute with excellence, and build something bigger together. And now, here's The Spark.
Today on The Spark, we're joined by Kamron Kunce, Vice President of Marketing and Client Success at RJ Young. With a unique background that spans both agency and corporate worlds, Kamron brings a sharp strategic lens and a deep understanding of what makes creative partnerships thrive. From leading national campaigns to championing customer experience, he's here to share insights on building brand momentum, navigating agency collaborations, and driving real results in an ever-evolving landscape. Kamron, welcome to the show. What drew you into the marketing world right out of school?
Well, first off, thank you, Mark, for having me on. It's an honor for me to be a guest on this show. And I'll say, too, I'm so impressed how the setup of this room looks. If you're watching, you can see it. If you're listening, you can't see it, but just know that it looks amazing. So thank you, and kudos for your team for building this out.
Oh, man, thank you.
But
Thanks for being on.
Absolutely. But to answer your question, marketing really drew me in because I've always been a big fan of creativity, collaboration, and problem solving. And marketing, I quickly learned, allowed me to do that. So essentially, it took my ideas and turned them into action. It was funny, Mark, on the drive over here before we started, chatting, I went back to thinking about how you and I first connected. And so 10, 15 years ago, you were one of the first boutique agencies to pop up in Nashville. I, at the time, was at this startup company that was manufacturing standing desks here in Nashville. And at that company, I helped them launch some brand. There was a lot of stuff that I was involved in, but part of that, I was on the team of making this new product that was new to the marketplace that no one had seen, and identified you to say, hey, Mark would be an incredible feedback for me to see how the product reacted. You were growing, so I hoped that I would be able to sell you some desks in time. But long story short, I remember physically moving one of our products over into your office space and meeting you for the first time. And then I think you mentioned either in your home office or here, you're still using that desk today. So For me, that's a full circle moment, and that's just an example of how I can take my ideas and put some action behind it.
Yeah, man, it was great working with you back then. I'm so glad that we reconnected while you're now running the show at the marketing show at RJ Young. So, how do you describe RJ Young from a marketing standpoint, to just the everyday person?
It's a great question. So historically, RJ Young has been known as the copiers and printers and scanner company, and that's all well and good, but we have really pivoted our business and opened up a lot of technology solutions, even managed IT services. And so that is a constant challenge for me. That's really part of the reason why they hired me, is to say, can you really think about diversifying our portfolio of what we truly offer? And so it's been a fun journey. I've been there for about 2 years now, but it's been incredible to really rethink some of the things that they've done historically and then introduce some new ways of, again, diversifying that portfolio of what we fully offer.
Yeah, well, most people might not know your background, but you also have a unique background in that you come from the agencies, but you've had a strong inside marketing team opportunities that you're a part of right now on the corporate leadership team with marketing. So maybe just talk a little bit about what's the difference in from an agency to the internal corporate team of in marketing.
Yeah. So the agency side, I quickly learned that if you're not taking initiative and you're not being proactive, you're going to get passed by very quickly. And so early on in my career, having several accounts just that I represented and bringing innovative ideas and making sure that they were fresh, unique to that client. You have to be a student. You have to be aware of what's going on, what tools are out there. Again, make it unique to those individual clients. And so early part of my career, it was really about me learning, you've got to take initiative. You've got to be proactive. You got to continue to be a student. And then in today's time, I would say 5-10 years ago, the breakdown between direct to consumer and business to business, they were very distinct kind of worlds. And now, because of tools, AI, and platforms and all these things, they're closer now than ever before. So it's been a journey for me over the past 2 years and beyond to really pull in some of those direct to consumer concepts and the way you do business through marketing and apply that to the business to business world. And again, that's been such a fresh take for the RJ Young team because they've not really thought of it that way, and so it's been really fun to really take kind of stale, partnerships and events and inject new life in them because of my experience direct to consumer.
Oh yeah, and you definitely have. I mean, one thing that I've just been taken by by with every conversation. You're very forward thinking. You're always thinking about, the next new technology or, AI advancement, or how can we, augment our team to make them even more efficient. And, I just love all of our conversations. And this is going to be a great episode in that, you can speak from both sides of the agency world and the corporate, but, hopefully like you can share some to our audience about like what you look for in agency partnerships. And I know we're going to ask some of those questions, in just a little bit, but, before we even get there, like, is there something from your early career that still like shapes how you lead your team today?
Absolutely. So I would say coming out of college, I had an internship with an agency and things were great. And when I graduated college, they actually offered me a job. And so on the surface, I was like, this is great, because my goal was to graduate college debt free. And then I have a high school sweetheart, so I was wanting to marry her. And so I was able to really go into that job really quickly right after college. So I was like, this is perfect. Well, about a year later, I got let go. I got fired.
Oh, wow.
And it was funny thinking back on it. It wasn't something that I did. It was probably the things that I didn't do. And I was the last man coming in. And so it was just one of those things where they let me go. But in reality, again, while that felt really big at the time, it put me on a track for success, because I thought to myself, oh, this is not going to be handed to me. I'm going to have to put in the work, even if the company knew me, again, because I interned there. So that really taught me, what, I've got to put in the work and I've got to bring value to where it's really transparent to the whole company. And so again, like that really set me up for success. Where I am today is through that failure. And we'll talk about this later on, but like, I'm a big fan of that. Is like, you can't be scared of failure and you can't continue to look back at that. You got to move forward and better yourself to do that. And so that's probably something that I still carry with, myself today looking ahead. And I'll say the guy, I won't name names, but I forgive you and I understand why you did it. And it put me on the right track.
Yeah, boy, I mean, you are so right though. I mean, the amount of super successful people that you meet that have all failed, like if you're not failing, you're just not trying hard enough.
Correct.
And so, I really appreciate you sharing that, because we all go through those kind of challenges. And so
it's part of my story, and it's fascinating. Like, I love to hear people's story. And I know personally, I've been inspired by other people's stories. So I hope your audience, the people who are viewing this or listening, they get something. They get some kind of nugget of inspiration from our conversation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've gone from like creative strategy in the agency setting to overseeing marketing and client success at one of the Southeast's largest tech and office solutions providers. What's been the most unexpected challenge in that transition?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I don't know if it's been a challenge, but it's been something that I've really had to keep in mind on my forefront of my mind is every transition that I make, whether it's changing roles or being promoted, you have to transition your role, and really think through that. Take a second to take a step back and evaluate and how you're going to make that change. There's a great book out there called The Leadership Pipeline that really defines what this looks and feels like. But essentially, you start out as an independent contributor, meaning you're solely responsible for yourself and your work. You'll be working with a team alongside of you, but at the end of the day, you're responsible for your work. You're contributing to yourself and to the company. Well, as of today, I'm now a leader of leaders. So that's drastically different from where I came from. So along that journey, I've really had to understand with every shift, your role changes and you can't try to go back and do the things that you were doing. You've got to make that transition. So essentially my goal now as a leader of leaders, I'm scaling my efforts through my team. And so in other words, I'm judged by my team. It's less about me actually contributing. It's more about how the team that I'm building and the contributions that they're making. And so that's a real life example of that's a challenge that you've got to know and understand, and resources like the leadership pipeline sets you up for success.
Man, I love that. And, just meeting a few folks from your team, it is interesting how they, they all look to you and look up to you. And, you've got a super sharp team. And, I think, it seems as though you lead by example with everything you ask your team to do. And I bet that builds just a ton of trust out there. Yeah,
I am super blessed. I have one of the strongest teams that have ever worked alongside me since day one of my career. So huge kudos to them. I mean, we'll talk about the Tech Connect event here lately, but they take my kernel of an idea and then they execute it and they enhance it. More importantly, they enhance it. Yeah. And that's the beautiful part is because I don't have to be involved in every single part of the details and granular, because I trust them to enhance it and carry it out, that's hard to find. So huge shout out to my team. They're incredible.
Yeah, let's talk about wins. what's a campaign or a project or an initiative that you're like especially proud of?
We
and
just
why?
talked about it. So Tech Connect is probably the most exciting thing that we have been able to accomplish as a team over the past 2 years. So just quick context, when I came into RJ Young, they were trying to do 7 to 9 in-person events throughout the year. That's all well and good. But with people being busy with their personal life and their professional life, it was very hard to get people to come to multiple events throughout the year. And that team at the time was spending a lot of time with logistics and costs and all these things. And at the end of the day, we would have just a handful of people show up, 5, 7 people show up. Now, some of those hit and it was good, but for the most part, it was hard to justify all the stuff in the back end to pull that off. So coming in, I didn't want to flip tables and because RJ was successful before my time. It's not that I was coming in to fix everything, but I came in, I listened, I talked to our partners, I talked to our internal team, and I quickly discovered, what if we took a step back and did one major event throughout the year where people could anticipate it, they could plan it, our partners could really invest a larger lump sum one time a year as opposed to breaking it up. Mm-hmm. And so long story short, that ultimately turned into our Tech Connect event. And we had our first one 2 years ago. So we've had 2 events. They have both been massively successful. And in a nutshell, you can dig in as much as you'd like. I'll answer whatever question. But in a nutshell, we wanted to represent, again, all the different offerings that RJ Young does. We have, over 30,000 existing customers in, our footprint throughout the Southeast. So we have just shy of 30 locations. We're across 9 states. We have, 700 employees. So all these people, we could tell them until we're blue in the face. We do a lot more than just copiers and printers. But until they see it and experience it, it doesn't resonate. And so with and through the Tech Connect event, we're inviting people to come on site to say, hey, we're celebrating you, just A, because you're an existing customer or prospect, but B, look at all the things that we offer. And if you have any interest in that, go talk to the partner, go get your questions answered and build those relationships. So it's just been an incredible journey. And again, huge kudos to the team because there's massive logistics in the back end. We did it the first week of June. And so if you're a Nashville native, you'll know this, but the first week of June is a big week in Nashville. Mm-hmm. That's CMA Fest. Oh, yeah. And so we're not affiliated with CMA Fest, but we knew that they were coming to Nashville for that week anyways. And so we took advantage of that buzz of the city, And so it was a very strategic move to know that, hey, people are coming to Nashville anyways. Let's kick off the summer with RJ Young, if you will, and have a good time. And then they can stay for CMA Fest or not. It's up to them. But just the buzz of that week is different in Nashville.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what you guys put on. I mean, it's, you did it at Old Red.
Yes.
You had Trace Adkins, I think, this year.
He was phenomenal.
He sang, and it was, and from, the food to the drink to just everything you guys had set up. I mean, very, very first-class event.
Thank you.
And, I look forward to coming to another one down the road.
Yeah.
So thank you.
We'd love to have you.
And we were putting it on.
Absolutely. And like you and I were talking before we got on camera, as an attendee, it's there's low risk. Like you don't have to pay for a ticket. You're invited to this event and you come on the site and you get, again, meet partners. You get to network with the people that are there. You get entertainment. So the first year we had Jeremy Cowart, who's a world-known photographer and author and speaker. He was our keynote speaker for year 1. Year 2, like you said, Trace Adkins performed live. So as an attendee, again, you're not spending any money. So it's a very low risk for you. And so I think that's why it's resonated with so many people, because it's not your traditional trade show. It is truly like, hey, come hang out and have a good time and have good food and meet cool people. And the rest that's our agenda, and then on the back end, it works itself out. So from a marketing perspective, it's a growth model, right? Like it's an opportunity for us to show off the world-class partners that RJ Young has, but also invite your clients and prospects that we want more business from or to get their business. But it's more subtle. It's not like a hardcore selling thing. So it's just translated. It's exceeded my expectations on all fronts. So I'm thrilled.
Most people in Nashville probably look at RJ Young and say, well, they are a copier company, right? And that's how you all were founded. But you all put on one of the biggest tech events that happen in the city of Nashville.
Right.
So, I mean, that has to be, top of the list of one of the biggest ones. You pull in innovators from all around the country to come to this event, and I guess with that, there's so many other things that you do, and you're all across the Southeast in multiple cities throughout, multiple states in the Southeast. What do you do? What are you doing to keep things fresh in RJ Young and tell that story beyond just, hey, we're a copier company?
Right. Honestly, truthfully, the secret sauce is taking the trust, the expertise, and the success that RJ Young has already had, and then injecting innovation through that. I'm literally just taking the groundwork and the foundation that the ones before me built, and then I'm just taking it and putting a new fresh spin on it. Again, a real life example of that is Tech Connect. It is a way to consolidate, again, that trust and that expertise and that success, and just running with it, putting new spin on it. Like, there's nothing new under the sun, but these little tweaks, these experiences or these relationships, especially in business to business, relationships are everything. Oh, yeah. So it's like understanding a bigger picture goal and then injecting that innovation around it.
Yeah, beyond just like, hey, the new fresh approach and beautiful design work and things like that. I know that you're very data driven, very results driven on your marketing campaigns, and maybe just speak a little bit into that of like how you came in and really even set things up and transform the way that you guys did business from a marketing standpoint.
Yes. And this isn't unique to RJ Young, but through growth, your customer data becomes siloed. So in other words, when you have it and, when you grow exponentially, new platforms are brought on, like your customer data becomes spread out. And so coming in and realizing that, looking for specific criteria could take weeks, months. It was always there and I would get it, but the time in which I would get it was pretty slow. And so my team literally spent the last year plus taking all of that data, consolidating it into one single source of truth, essentially into a data lake, and working cross-departmentally to reconcile that data, make sure that it's accurate, that it's talking, all the systems are talking to each other. So before, again, what used to take weeks and months, now we're able to put in specific criteria and pull targeted lists within seconds. Wow. And that has been a complete game changer for us. And so, again, marketing and sales, I am a huge believer of working hand in hand with the sales team. I want them to know and understand we are here to make your life easier, in that we are data-driven decision makers and we can help you really rifle in your approach. And so to give you a real life example of that, in Q1 of this year, for the first time ever, sales and marketing truly aligned for a go-to-market strategy. And so essentially what we did is sat down and identified a very specific product mix that we could go to the market and say, instead of saying, hi, Mark, we're RJ Young. We have 130 offerings. What do you want? To, hi, Mark, I know that you've been a customer for 2 years, and after reviewing your account, you are the perfect candidate for this conference room package. Mm-hmm. That's very different, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And so those types of conversations, to play that consultant role, as opposed to just like, we offer everything and what do you want, was a game changer for our sales team. And kudos for them. They embraced it, they understood it, and they did it, and they bought into it. And so activities on our Salesforce, they were up 20 to 30% year over year. And it's all about activities. Like it's really understanding, because it streamlined things for them. They get overwhelmed, and that's fair, because we have 130, product offerings, and they're going, where do I start? And so just the fact that we were able to use customer data from all that cleanup on the back end and give them a targeted list, it was such a great way for them to start a conversation.
Yeah.
And so that's just a real life example. And again, kudos to my team. And I'm not exaggerating. It literally took a year and a half or more for them to do it right. To really think through, where's all this information coming through? How does it talk to each other? How is it getting updated? Some of that is manual. Some of that is automated. There's a ton that you have to think about. But because they did the work, it has improved how we are effective and we scale today.
Yeah. Man, it is so common too in big organizations how they purchase software and it's going to work, and none of it is ever pulled together. So somebody buys Salesforce, nobody ever gets fired in the marketing world, corporate world, for bringing on Salesforce. It does 10 million things, right? But the adoption rate, if you don't have the data, is very slim.
Yeah, it's garbage in, garbage out.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then, bringing on other tools that, like, hey, so-and-so brought on this tool and they left after 6 months of being here, and now nobody knows that even we're paying a subscription on that tool.
Exactly.
And it sounds like you went through and audited it all and pulled it into one cohesive, platform. What is that? What are you using now?
Great question. I wish I had my team to really get nerdy with you here.
Yeah.
But it is called Domo. So the data lake is called Domo. And again, going back to Tech Connect, and I apologize, I'm excited about Tech Connect, but on site, they worked with Domo to create a chat GPT for Tech Connect. So essentially, as an attendee, you could walk up to this interactive display, which we sell, by the way.
Wow. But
you could literally engage with this chat GPT around our offerings and get a response and even schedule meetings. And so all of that was possible because of the work that they did on the Domo side of things. So that's our data lake that we currently use. And again, we are just scratching the surface. Step one, we call it phase one internally, is just trying to consolidate that data and getting it updated. That's phase one. Well, phase two introduces all these other layers of even more granular capabilities like profitability and MRR and all these things that's just going to make us stronger and stronger in time.
Yeah. And you talked a little bit about like the first time ever the sales and the marketing team worked together.
Yeah.
Maybe just like what's your view on like marketing's role in, that relationship and how you guys collaborate?
That is my biggest wish, honestly, is that every department, and this is not like marketing is the best. I'm not trying to say that, but I'm just saying I wish that other departments really understood and knew the impact of a marketing team if it's done right. If it's using data to make decisions, it can really move the needle. So in other words, it's not just a cost center. It can produce legitimate revenue that makes the lives of your sales team a lot easier. So essentially you're working smarter, not harder. And if you have a marketing team that knows and understands that is absolutely a game changer. And I'll be quick to say too, data is absolutely important, but at the same time, that's half of the story. The other half of the story is you have to physically talk to the sales teams who are interacting with that client, talk to your customer care team to see what they're getting, feedback from. And it's the marriage of both of those things, data and then the relationship human side that makes the difference. And so I think, again, if you have an optimized marketing team and they're working hand in hand with sales and customer experience and HR and admin and all these departments, it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Marketing touches everything across the organization, so I'm glad you point that out. I guess I've heard you say purpose, strategy, and heart. How do those three words show up in the way that like you lead your team?
I think with purpose, really, it's identifying your gifts and how it translates to the team and to the company. I mean, that's step one. Is like, how are you unique? For strategy, to me, the way I define that is thinking through holistically. How do my decisions affect those around me, and what are the ripple effects? Until you truly understand that, you might think you've created the next best thing since sliced bread, but it might really negatively affect someone who interacts with you on a daily basis. So strategy is all about like really understanding and talking and having discussions and alignment around the company's goals. And then what was the last one?
Purpose, strategy, and heart.
Okay, yes. So heart, I would define that as passion. So I think people are really quick to realize when you're passionate about something and when you're not. So I try to hire people who are truly passionate about marketing and change, embracing change. If you're constantly being frustrated by change, you're probably not going to last very long on my team, because that's just what marketing is, how quickly things change. So that's what I want people to be passionate and excited about coming to work. And so that's how I would define that.
Yeah, man, that's so great. And this next question kind of leads right into that, is what's something you've done intentionally to build or even protect the culture that you've created as a team?
Yeah, so my main objective is to remove the gray area from my team. I want to remove the guessing. I want to make it crystal clear of, hey, here are the goals that you have for the year. Here's how it breaks down on a quarterly basis, but also things change. So if things change like COVID, or something to that effect, we can talk about it and we'll embrace it. But at the start, here are your goals. Here's how you can reach them. I have very high standards, but very high support for my team. And so I think not that makes it easy, because it's not. I'm asking a lot of you to contribute. But also like we can work through it together, and so to remove the guesswork, to remove the gray area, make it crystal clear and have regular check-ins, that translates into them being empowered to make decisions on their own. So in other words, I'm not having to be on the day-to-day activity. I've given them my expectation and it's their job to meet that or exceed that, and then if they do, I reward them based on performance. Working with a team to really say, like, I value your contributions. I have high expectations and standards for you. And when you do that, I recognize that. So I want to reward you. And so all of those things compile together. It's not one of those things. It's all of those things work together to help build culture and value of my team.
Sounds like very, very high standards, and a place people can take a lot of pride in being a part of, and the work you guys are doing. I'm sure, just from my experience, your team takes just a ton of pride in everything you guys are doing, from a Tech Connect event to, just running the day-to-day marketing operations. So that's awesome. When you think about like collaborations, either internally or with your agency partners, what's partnership? Sorry, let me start that over real quick. When you think about collaborations, either internally or with your agency partners, what's a partnership that's really worked for you, and like maybe why?
Yeah, I think setting those expectations is really key on the front end, so there's no misunderstanding when you're halfway into the project. Like really just being transparent on the front end to say, here's what we're expecting. Like we're hiring you as an expert or an agency to do this for us, and our expectation is like we're a business, so if we spend money, we'd like to see a return on our money. So what does that look like? And so when I think about agency specifically relationships that have really worked well. For example, like we have an SEO agency, and they're incredible because what they did is like, hey, we are an expert in SEO work and technical work and all the things. And here's what you're going to spend with us. But I would like to present to you a break-even report. So in other words, when you spend this money with us, here's when you can expect to make your money back. And then beyond that, they included an ROI calculator. So essentially, they're like, not only will you know when you'll break even, here's when you should expect to receive a return on investment. And for me, that removed, again, talking about removing guesswork or the gray area, that removed that for me, and that gave me high confidence to go, oh, they've done this before, they're experts, like they're giving me confidence in the way that they presented this. It's a very low risk for me, so I went for it. And this agency has turned out to be incredible. I mean, they have, again, we can go as deep as you want, but like we had focused keywords with them that were on like page 50 of Google. They are now on the first page of Google.
That's unbelievable.
And so to me, to be able to build, if you truly are an expert and you're an agency, you need to have confidence around that and build a case to build confidence with your client.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like they put their money where their mouth
did.
is. And I mean, that's bold that they would present that to you. And here's when you're going to see the return on investment. And I mean, I'm sure every client would love to see that.
Yes.
So that's amazing. Maybe in the show notes, maybe we could share that agency URL just so in case anybody's out there and they want to learn more about it.
Yeah, and they're so, and again, we can get as granular as you want, but we're even pausing, like even knowing that, we're pausing their services through the next couple of months because we're pivoting some things internally, and they were okay with that because we had just an honest, talking about setting expectations. I went to them and said, guys, you've been killing it. I want you to know this is not a performance-based thing. This is a pivot, this is an internal pivot thing, but know that in 2026, we're not only going to continue business with you, we're expanding business based on what you've done. So to me, again, like a normal agency would push back, no, like don't cancel us, what can we do? They're like, no, we get it. We totally get it. And let's still continue to work together to make sure you don't lose the momentum of what we've done. But they are totally understanding through that. And so flexibility, transparency, all these things, that's what truly makes you stand apart if you're an agency.
Yeah. And I mean, also as a brand, that makes you stand out in that's a true partnership. One, you set the expectations, but two, you share the vision of, hey, we're going to come back next year and even stronger. We're going to spend more with you.
Yep. You hit the nail on the head. It's truly it's a true partnership is what that is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess over the years, you've worked with a lot of different agencies and, the different corporate roles you've held. When you're considering a new agency, what are the key things that you're looking for? Yeah,
again, transparency is a big one to me. Setting those expectations, being flexible, especially for direct to consumer, but also in the business to business world, the immediate needs of the business, they change throughout the year based on a variety of things. Again, you could have this great plan of here are our goals for the year and we're going to stick to it, and then there's a wrench thrown in there somewhere and things change. And so for an agency to be able to pivot quickly and be flexible with that and just embrace it and then double down on their expertise, that is a huge thing for me as well. So if you're able to do that as an agency, I think you're going to succeed in the long run.
Yeah. This is a great episode. We're going to not only have agency owners on the Spark, but we're also going to have a lot of corporate marketing executives like yourself. And so, maybe you could speak into giving some advice to agency owners or brand marketers trying to collaborate better with internal client-side teams.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say. There's a client-side piece, but also just as an agency, don't present yourself as a one-stop shop. Can I just say that? Don't do that because once you do that, you're probably more than likely you're going to be overpromising and not being able to deliver. I want to hire you because you're the expert in video or podcasting or launching, go-to-market campaigns or new brands. Don't try to say, oh, we do it all. What do you need? Oh, yeah, we do that. Don't fall into that trap. From the client side, working with them on the back end, it really comes down to, again, alignment, but more than that, really know what the brand stands for, not just the product that they're selling. So really have a good understanding of their core values, what they stand for, that DNA of the company. So that way you're able to be proactive and initiate some really cool ideas because you truly understand the business.
Yeah. Has there ever been a time, which I'm sure there has, but where maybe you've had to let an agency go?
Oh yeah.
And why did that happen? And I guess maybe another thing is, because I've heard a timeline of from the time a client makes a decision that they're going to let the agency go, it's a certain time period. Maybe talk into hey, when you knew, how long did it take you to make the decision of we're going to let the agency go, and maybe why?
Yeah, it varies case by case, but I think the most recent one is, it's kind of weird to say, but like I would advise the agency to be able to push back some too, because things change so much that if you are just accepting what the client is saying all the time and not giving your professional take on it, that's a slippery slope, And so some of the agencies that we've worked with, yes, and it's in their defense, things have changed and it's hard to gain traction when things are changing so quickly. But don't just be the yes man. Don't just be the yes woman. Like truly push back and say, hey, we're really experts in this area, and you're asking us to do that. We would advise not doing that. And so I think there's something to that from an agency to be able to push back and communicate, and not in a non-respectful way, but it's just being able to have a conversation to say, hey, you've got a lot going on right now. What are the needs of the business? How can we prioritize that? And what's going to move the needle for you the most? It's a slippery slope when they try to do it all and they're like, okay, cool, and embrace it. But then it kind of falls flat because there's no really true momentum anywhere. And so that's what I would say. It's some of the things that I've noticed of the agencies that we started with and moved on is because they didn't really double down on giving us true guidance on where we needed it based on what their expertise is. So.
Yeah. So one of the Agency Management Institute, they do a lot of research every year, and one of the timeline, they said that after researching like 2,000 marketers across the U.S. that buys agency services, that the time from we're not happy with the agency to we terminated the agency is typically 30 days. Yeah. And so just from an agency standpoint, it is good to know like what corporate executives are looking for out of their agencies. And I guess, what I took is, one, don't be a one-stop shop where you see it all the time is a two-person agency in Nashville or even beyond, they'll list every single marketing service imaginable on their website. And it's like, what are you actually the very best at?
Exactly.
Though? And you have to ask those questions versus like we're true expert in SEO and that's all we do. Yeah. But we're going to go do the very best SEO that we can for our clients. So, I guess, what have been some common missteps that you've seen agencies make when they're actually trying to pitch you their services?
Yeah, it's almost like not listening, not truly listening to what your needs are and taking it upon themselves to present something that you may or may not even be interested in. So there's a delicate balance, right? Because you do want them to be proactive and take initiative, but if they're like completely missing the mark on what you even said, that's a big red flag. And I've had that happen as well. It's like, wait, why did you take all that time and resources to create this project when that's not what I'm needing? And it's not that you're not wrong. It might be a timing thing. It might be a budget thing. And so that would be my biggest advice is like, as an agency, you've got to listen more than you talk, and then take that back to your team. And again, understand the brand that you're working with and what's their DNA, what's their core value, what are their business objectives, what are their priorities. Take all of that feedback and then come to the table and present and be confident in that and say, hey, we're the expert. This is what you said. Here's what we suggest. Yeah. And let's give it minimum 3 months to see what kind of traction it gets. And then we can discuss at the end of that. And that's another big part, Mark, is being able to openly discuss some of the things that were missed or things that you learned, things that didn't work. If you're having problems or you don't feel comfortable having that conversation with your agency, something's wrong. Mm-hmm. You need to have open conversations, again, fully respectful. No one's raising their voice or anything, but it's a good open communication between, it has to be a two-sided conversation. Yeah. I guess is what I'm saying.
I think, I've taken a couple things from you, but one, that collaboration from the time that you start a project, almost collaborating with the agency along the way, but that agency is bringing you ideas and strategy all along the way to help make sure that you feel as though, as the client, I'm a part of this journey.
Right.
The other thing is, it seems like you do a lot of like maybe strategic planning, and I don't know if you set aside time to do it as a marketing team, but just from building KPIs with your team to how you monitor things to like what data is important. It's like all around like your strategic planning. Do you subscribe to one specific platform like EOS or Scaling Up or?
So I have read Traction. That's one of my favorite books of all time. I've actually sent that to our current sales team to say, hey, we need to think about this structure. But as a team, we've set milestones to say, hey, no later by September, we're already planning for 2026. And so like, it's funny you bring this up because I have a meeting on Friday with my current team, the two directors, customer experience and marketing, to already start planning for 2026. Like brainstorm, let's put it on the board. What do we want to do? And so to your point, like if you don't do that, it's going to sneak up on you and the new year is here and you're like, what are we doing? It's so you've got to be intentional about establishing that with your team. And here's the thing, it's not a one size fits all. Like I would encourage you to like try different things year over year. Like last year we didn't do that because it was I had just been named VP of marketing. I just hired a new director of marketing. Like we were all over the place last year. And we saw that, kind of be a little bit messy at the beginning of this year because so much was changing. So we were intentional this year to say, by September of this year, we want to have a really good understanding of what we're going to do in 2026. And so I think you have to be that way if you want to continue to grow and see what truly works on the back end.
Yeah, like as I've mentored agencies and some agency account teams, and even our own, it's I always say, man, with the day that you go into a client meeting and you say, well, just tell me what you want to do, which you've got a ton of ideas. And so I know you want to share in that collaboration, but the day we come in and we say, just tell us what you want to do, Kamron, I'm assuming our relationship's probably over.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the partner, right? Like I think for you, because we're so like-minded, we probably it would be fine and we would come up with something brilliant. But if because again, it comes back to relationships, and I think if you don't have that relationship and if you don't have that confidence, then you're right. That probably is the last day that we're going to interact. But based on what I know about you over the past, 10, 15 years, how we've built our relationship and now to be kind of like reunited, if you will, like it is a different conversation because I know you, I trust you. Like, so to answer your point, it's about establishing a true partnership is really what's going to make the difference.
Yeah. Well, I know you're always looking out for the latest, greatest. What should we be doing? Like, what trends or technologies are you paying like close attention to right now, and that you believe is going to maybe shape the future of how marketing's done?
Yeah, I don't think this is going to surprise anyone, but AI. Like, I think exploring AI, and again, I want to be very careful here. Yeah. It's not fully relying on AI. Please do not put all of your information into these are learning learning languages. It's open source. So my advice is spend time learning it and using it on an open, nothing proprietary, nothing secret, nothing private, but integrate it into your day-to-day. So that's what I've done. Like I use it as a sounding board, not a crutch. But it's changing marketing. Like it feels like, so I graduated I'm dating myself here, but I graduated college in 2010. Social media was still this shiny new thing that no one knew how it was going to turn into this huge marketing play. And so it was like the wild, wild west of social media. Well, we all know what social media is today. There's advertising and it's targeted and all the things. I'm feeling the same way about AI. Like we're in the wild, wild west of AI right now. What has happened over the past 6 months? It's insane. Like I listened to a podcast recently that was talking about AI will know the sum of all human race. And like, it was like 3 years or something, 3 to 6 years. Wow. It's just moving incredibly fast. So it's not, you can't be scared of that, but you've got to embrace it. And again, like use it to your day-to-day to really understand how you can be more efficient and scale things. So that's how I personally use it. And I'm my director of marketing and my director of customer experience, they both are embracing AI, carefully, not connecting things, but like really trying to understand how we can make it more scalable and efficient for the company and for your day-to-day personal use.
Wow. Well, let's stay on that path too. Like, what do you expect from your agency partners when it comes to bringing you ideas around AI and how they're using it? Talk a little bit into that.
Yeah, I think it's very forward thinking for an agency just proactively to say, hey, we're exploring AI, like not ignoring the elephant in the room, just proactively saying, hey, AI is here and we're already testing it, but also having an understanding of the privacy piece, the compliance piece, because you don't want to just go nuts either. So I think to answer your question, I think it's very attractive if an agency is already exploring that in a controlled setting. That tells me a lot about them. That tells me that they're being proactive, that they're students, that they're learning, but they're also sensitive to that security piece. That is absolutely key.
Oh yeah. I tell our team, AI has the potential to make you superhuman, but you have to really learn it and embrace it and use it the right way.
Correct.
There's nothing that you can ever send out of the agency that is not like looked at by human eyes. However, what used to take you like days to research, now, you can do it in 10 minutes and have much, much more thorough research done on a client, an industry, a vertical, whatever it is. And I always, we're looking today at people, new people that are going to come into the agency. One, how are you embracing AI? Yeah. What types of learnings are you undertaking with AI? Because we know it's going to be the way of the future. It's not going to replace our agency team, and I don't think that's what clients want. They want the relationship.
Yeah.
However, we may be able to do twice as much business with a smaller team.
Yeah.
And when I say smaller, like instead of having to double the size of the team, we may just have to hire 50% more people.
Right.
Which in our world, labor is the biggest cost center.
Yeah.
But it's very needed and it's great. But how do we scale the business without having to hire a bunch of people? But our people are paid more than they've ever been paid before,
Right.
because they can do more work and more efficiently, and they're working less hours than what they're working today.
Yep.
And that's how I think AI in our world is going to help shape the future of marketing.
Yeah, I agree. But again, it's so important to say, use it as a sounding board, not a crutch to where you're fully dependent on it. I think, to your point, the human side of that, your human creativity, AI is not going to trump that, in my opinion, really ever. Like there's a human element that AI will really not ever 100% get it,
Yeah.
And so that's what I've encouraged in my team is like, you've got to, like, for example, use it to challenge yourself and to be you can treat it as a real person. Like it's the same thing that we talked about, garbage in, garbage out. You being able to test different prompts into like a chat GPT is going to refine your experience and it's going to benefit you. So for example, you could literally take your job description and put it into chat GPT and put in a prompt that says, hey, you're a world-renowned VP of marketing. Please challenge me when I present strategies and push back to me on what I'm presenting you. Like I've done that personally. Like it's a way for me to challenge myself using the technology and behind the scenes to like really be someone that's I'm learning from, but it's nothing that's private. There's no compliant issues. It's just bettering myself. And so I would encourage your audience to do things like that, is like use it in that way. Like get a good understanding of how the prompts work, challenge yourself. And you have to tell the model that, because if you don't, it'll be like, yeah, man, it's great. Go for it. And it's like, sometimes it's a terrible idea.
Oh yeah.
So you have to work with the prompt to really like put in a very specific thing. Hey, you're a marketing, whatever, like review my work and push back when it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I've already seen, like, it's pretty powerful. But again, to your point, at the end of the day, that I'm taking that information, I'm, digesting it and putting something out that's mine. It's not just copy paste and run with it. Like it has to have a human kind of edit it and take it from there. So
yeah. Well, as we start to wrap up, this has been an amazing episode, and I really appreciate it. But what is one thing that maybe you're the most excited about with RJ Young?
I think just the way that the brand has remained relevant, I think is incredible. And I think we've only, again, scratched the surface of what we're going to be able to do. I think of ways that we, even partners that we've had historically for many years, we're putting fresh takes on them, and it's exciting everyone. So a real life example of that is like Belmont basketball. We support and sponsor their basketball programs, and it's been an amazing partnership. But recently we sat down and we're like, hey, what are your real needs? Like, what are you trying to accomplish as a brand for basketball, for Belmont basketball? And they essentially just said, hey, like, we want to get butts in seats. We want people to come to our games on Saturday and stay and enjoy it. Well, it's like, all right, how do we do that? So we reverse, I won't get into all the details, but reverse engineer that. And long story short, we launched this experience in a high-end mall here in Nashville to attract the people who will be going to the games.
Wow.
And it's just, that's a real life example of hey, you can have a stale partnership and you can have banners and signs. That's fine. But let's take it to the next level and let's make something that truly resonates with who you're trying to target and turn that into action.
Yeah.
And so we had this mini basketball court that was co-branded Belmont and RJ Young, and we had a basketball hoop there that people could actually interact with it and shoot with it. Kids would come and play while the parents shop, so it was a tremendous value for mom and dad while they're shopping. Kids were having a blast because they don't like to go to the mall, but ultimately it was bringing people to the game because they're like, oh wow, I'm alumni of Belmont, or I didn't know that they had a kids area at the game on Saturdays, and they're very affordable games. Let's go as a family. It just started all these new conversations, and that never would have happened if we didn't stop and really talk to each other what are your goals? What can we accomplish together? And going back to showing off that full portfolio of product. In that activation, we're showing off sales collateral that RJ Young printed off. We're showing off technology of TV screens that we're running the content in on the back end of things. It's a way for us to showcase the capabilities of RJ Young. So that's a very long way of answering your question,
Totally.
But it's just being innovative with, again, building on the success and trust and expertise that RJ Young already has.
That's unbelievable too, Kamron. I mean, you guys are so involved with sponsorships all across a lot of different sports.
We have over 20
different things that you guys take on. Do you do that internally as a team, or do you have agency partners that help you?
Great question. No, it's all internal at the moment. And again, this is one of the things that I evaluated coming in, because we have over 20 sponsorships. That's professional, that's collegiate, that's amateur or minor league, however you want to define that. And so because of that, I said, we've got to prioritize that. And so long story short, the team created a document that's a tiered system that literally, again, removes the guesswork, removes the gray area of here's what we expect. If we're spending X amount of dollars on this sponsorship, then we should see a return of X in this parameter. That's our tier 1. That's the gold standard. Tier 2 then is like, all right, they may not be there, but here's what we can do to get them here. And then tier 3 is even beyond that. It's like, this is purely, we don't know how this is going to, this might be in us entering a new market or trying a new sport or something. So it's purely conceptual, but we know that we want to move it to a tier 2 and a tier 1 in that given time. So and again, when you talk to the sponsor, they get it. I've had so many people, you can't imagine, Mark, how many people come to me on a weekly basis. Hey, I want you to sponsor my baseball team. Hey, I want you to sponsor my collegiate basketball team. Okay, great. I'm always open to making connections, but I on the very front end say, hey, just so you know, we have a tiered system because we're a business at the end of the day and we'd like to see a return on our dollar. So here's our tiered system. So if you feel like your brand and you can meet that, then let's talk. And if not, that's fine too, but we still made a connection. And so that, again, removes the gray work or the gray area and removes that question for the sponsor and internally to set that expectation.
Wow. What's one of the best pieces of advice that you've received as a young marketer, or maybe even, as you've grown in your career, that's maybe shaped where you're at today?
I'd say it would boil down to this, is you cannot be scared of failure, but at the same time, you cannot continue to make the same mistakes. So again, going back to starting my career out, thinking I had it in the bag by having an internship and starting right out of college and then getting fired. That was a real wake-up call. I failed. But guess what? I learned through that, and it's set me on the track of success ever since then. So I would tell your listeners, tell your audience, you cannot be scared of failure. It needs to be calculated. It needs to have a calculated side of it. It can't just be like, oh, I'm going to try this and know that it's going to fail, but not to remake the same mistakes. So, but you can't. Innovation comes through. Essentially, Mark, it's funny. If you look at the course of your career, you learn essentially what not to do. Yeah. You're really learning the things, what not to do, that makes you experienced and seasoned. So that's what I would say.
Kamron, thank you so much for bringing it to the show today. And thank you for joining us on today's episode of The Spark. Really appreciate it. Hope you'll subscribe, rate, and review this episode so that we can continue to bring you great guests and great topics. If you know of somebody in the Nashville community that you'd love to see on this show, please drop them in the comments, and we'd love to invite them on the show. Thank you. And from The Spark, we're out.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The Spark from Creative Assembly. Thanks for spending time with us and exploring the minds shaping Nashville's creative future. If you're walking away more inspired, connected, or energized, that's exactly the point. A big thank you to our sponsor, Snapshot, and the incredible team behind the scenes who make this show possible. Your support fuels every conversation and keeps collaboration alive. So if you haven't already, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, stay creative, stay curious, and keep that spark.